just set this aside.
We're going to cover 2.7 and 2.8 today. 2.7, you're dividing fractions.
Yes, I use those.
You're dividing fractions. The first problems that you have to do ask you to give the reciprocal. A reciprocal is you just flip it over. If you have the fraction 3/4, the reciprocal is 4/3. Okay, don't turn this into improper. Don't say 1 1/3. Just flip it over only. Okay, the reciprocal is just the number flipped over. If you have the number 6, just put 1 over 6. Because 6 is 6 over 1, so the reciprocal is the 1 on top, the 6 on bottom.
You found my page number, I'm sorry.
If you have the number like 10 over 3, it'll be 3/10. Okay? The reason that you have to know what a reciprocal is because you use that for division. If you have a fraction divided by a fraction, you leave this part the same. Never flip it over. This part changes to multiplication, and the fraction that follows the division gets flipped over. So the 4 is on top, the 3 is on bottom. Okay, so you could do 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, but you could divide by 2 first. Okay, if you do this and you do 1 times 4 and then 2 times 3, you're going to have to reduce this fraction. You'll have to divide the top and bottom by 2 and get 2/3. Or you could divide by 2 here instead of here. Divide by 2, divide by 2, you get 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3. So you don't have to divide this first, you can do it here. If you forgot and didn't see it here, you can always do it there.
Or you can do it shorter and do it there, huh?
Yeah. So let's do another one. Let's do 3/4 divided by 3/5. Okay, this stays the same. You never flip this first one. This turns to multiplication. I always like to circle that part. It shows that's the part that's changing. That changed. This changes with the 5 on top, 3 on bottom. And you can multiply straight across, get 15 over 12, or you could divide by 3 first. Divide by 3, divide by 3. You don't have to reduce it anymore there. The 5/4, here you can go ahead and change it though to the mixed number. It may give the answer 5/4, but if you want to go ahead and change that to 1 1/4, go ahead and do that. Good habit to get into. The top number goes under the division. This bottom number goes on the outside. 4 into 5 goes 1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract, you have 1 left over. This remainder goes on the top. The 4 stays on the bottom here. So to change 5/4, it would come out to 1 1/4 right there. Okay, if you have a fraction, we'll do it again. Okay, say you have a fraction 13 over 20 over 4/5. This line here in the middle means divide. You have 13/20 divided by 4/5. When you see this in the book, you can just write it on your paper like this, divided by 4/5. And then this part's going to change. You have 13 over 20 times 5 over 4. Right. And you want to do any?
Yeah,
reduce.
Yeah, definitely want to. We don't want to multiply that if we don't have to. Divide by 5, divide by 5. So 13 times 1, way easier than 13 times 5, right? 4 times 4? 16. That can't reduce, so that's as far as you can go. Okay, if you have a whole number, So you have 8 divided by 1/2. Okay, don't look at that and say, oh, well, I don't need to do that, it's 4. Okay? That's what it looks like it would be, right? 8 dividing it by 1/2?
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be 4 though. 8 times 1/2 is 4. Okay? 8 divided by 1/2 is not 4. 8, you're changing this part to times,
Times 2.
that was 8 over 1, times 2 over 1. Now do you see that it's not 4?
Mhm.
See, 8 times 2 is 16.
Right. And
If you divided 8 into halves, you'd have 16 of them. If you had 8 pizzas and you divided them into halves, you'd have 16 halves of pizzas, right? Okay, so
so the other would be 16, not 16 ones?
16 over 1, which is 16. Yeah. If it's over 1, you don't have to, you could say over 1 equals 16, but you don't have to even write it over 1. Right. Okay, some of these, it's kind of hard to tell, like 28 looks like 27. There's just, this one is a little bit darker, so that's the one that's the division. It's a little longer and a little darker in the book. So on 28, you're going to have the 7/10 divided by 3 if you have your book open. You have this number divided by this. So you have 4/7 divided by 8. Okay, this is going to get flipped over, so we have to make it right. 4/7, we're turning it to multiply by 1/8. You want to do that multiplication, or do you want to divide first?
You can divide before the
Divide
8.
Divide by 4? Divide by 4. Okay, if there's a 1 on top, you do need to write it, okay? It's not like this where you could leave it off. You have to have that 1 on top. 7 times 2 is 14. So that's your answer, 1 over 14. Number 26, you have a number on top and then it's like number 25. This is going to be like 26. You have a number, then a line, then 3/4. See how this one's shorter? This is 18 divided by 3/4. So you have 18 over 1. This part's changing to times in by the reciprocal. You want to do any division first?
Yeah, the 3 and the 18.
Divide by 3, divide by 3. Now we have 6 times 4.
24 over 1, which will make
Over
that 24 wholes.
Just 24, right? Okay. Now let me see what the next page has for us. We have a lot of word problems here. Okay? If a word problem tells you that something like each person is going to get 7/8, let's say cups of rice. Maybe this is in a country and they're feeding them 7/8 of a cup of rice. And it says how much will, let's say, 5,656 cups feed. Okay, now what you want to do first is say, okay, how would we do it if it was like a whole cup? If it was 1 cup apiece, how many people would it feed? It would feed that many people, right? Okay, so if this was 1, what would you do to that number? Let's say 2, what if it was 2? Let's make it a little more.
You multiply it?
Okay, if we had 5,656 cups, and we gave everybody 2 cups, are we
Divide
going
it.
to multiply it by 2?
Okay,
Yeah,
7/8.
you're going to divide it by 2 because it's going to be less than this number, right?
Okay,
So
divided
if you
by.
divided it by 2 cups, you get how many people. So what you do is you think of this as being like a whole number that you can multiply or divide real easy to see whether you're gonna be doing a multiply or divide, okay? To see which number is gonna be used. Because you're not gonna say 7/8 divided by this.
Right.
You're gonna take the total amount you have and divide it by how much each person will get.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so you have 56, 56, and you're dividing it by how much each person gets, because you were gonna divide it by 2 cups, right?
So the 56 would go first?
Yes, that's how much you have.
You gotta find it out.
You need to divide it up by how much each person gets,
Divided by,
okay? So we're gonna change that to multiplying by 8/7. I used a number that would divide by 8/7. You know why? Because I wanted to be able to divide this easily.
Oh, because that shows.
Yeah, so we could divide before we multiply. So, see 56 divided by 7?
8 times.
Yeah, 8 times. Let's see, 56 divided by 7.
88.
808.
Is 58, right?
It would be
Yeah,
88.
7 won't go into, it's not 88.
808.
Right. It won't go into 5,
Oh.
and then it goes into 56 again. So it can feed 808 people. Oh, sorry, that's not that number. We divided by 7, divided by 7. 808.
So we have to do
808 times 8 is how many people it's going to feed, right? 8 times 8,
6,464 people.
right. 64, 64.
Okay,
So you're feeding-
because we're only giving them
You're giving them less than a
7.
cup.
Yeah.
If you gave a cup, you would only be able to feed 5,656 people. But since you're giving them less than a cup,
You'll be able to feed a little bit more than that.
yeah. Hopefully they can live on less than a cup, but you feed a lot more people that way.
Hopefully that's not all they're
Hopefully
getting
it'll keep
today.
them alive, right?
I wanted to
Okay,
write
let's
that
use
the other, I
some
hope I
smaller
didn't get.
numbers. Let's say we have a box of cereal that contains 15 cups. Okay, we have 15 cups of cereal in a box.
How many box cereal has 15
Okay.
cups?
And let's say a serving, one serving is 3/4 of a, should we say 3/4? Yeah,
3/4.
3/4 of a cup. Okay, how many servings are gonna be in that box? Okay,
So you're gonna take 15 over 1.
okay, let's use the whole number here instead of 3/4. And do you have all your portfolio stuff there? Is it not quite ready? Did you do it? Did you
Good.
do it with it? Did you do it with this? It's already put it in there. If you wanted to do that, you would have done it, you just have to read it. But it was before. No, I didn't do it. Okay, let's use a full, like 2 or 3 cups. Let's do 3 or 5 per serving. We're not gonna have 5 cups per serving, are we? If it was a 1 cup serving, you'd get 15 servings out of it, right?
Mm,
If it's a 3 cup serving, how many servings would there be?
We divide that.
Yeah.
60, probably
If
50.
it's 3 cup servings, you get 5 servings out of that box, right?
Right.
So you're dividing this into how much you have. So how much you have total goes first, just like it did with the rice.
Okay.
That was how much you had total. Divide it by how much a serving is. Divide it by 3/4. So
It's gonna be
20.
15 is over 1. Multiplying it by 4/3, right?
Right.
And you
15
want
and 3 will reduce.
to divide first, right? So
So
5
1
6
and 20.
4.
20, yeah.
20 over 1, which is just 20. You get 20 servings out of it. Okay? So that's mainly your word problem's just gonna be a lot like that. Make sure that you put how much you have as your first number though. Divided by what the size of the serving is. Okay, now we have, let me see. Oh, we have an area of a postage stamp at the very end. Well, make sure you remember how to do area.
It's the length times the width.
It's the length times the width, and it doesn't matter which one comes first, right?
No.
Okay, the area is length times width. So if these are fractions, you just do the fraction times the fraction. Let's say that this is like a half by a half. 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. So the area of this box would be 1/2 inch times 1/2 inch. 1/2 times 1/2, 1 times 1, 2 times 2, inch times inch, square inches, okay?
Don't you have to have numbers all the way around it?
Not if it
Well, if
doesn't
it's
say
a
it.
square, it's gonna be the same over here and the same up there. If you were doing perimeter, you would add all the outsides. If you're doing area, you multiply. Perimeter is like putting a fence around it.
So
So
perimeter,
you
you
don't have to-
add an area, you multiply?
Right, perimeter, you add them all up. Area, you multiply. And
What's
triangle, you're gonna
Perimeter
have
is
different-
around it,
Yeah, perimeter is around it.
and
Like
the
little
area is
GI
inside of it.
Like the little G.I. Joe doll.
Uh-huh.
Then you push the button and he says, guard the perimeter. He's telling you to guard the fence. He's telling you to guard around it. The perimeter is around it. So if you were guarding the perimeter, you would guard around it. Somebody else can guard the inside. Okay?
You used to tell him, I said, oh, guard the perimeter. And he's
Guard the perimeter. Guard the outside. Okay, now that's those to, this 2.7. Now we're going to go to 2.8. You're multiplying and dividing mixed numbers. What do you think it means by mixed?
That's when you have the whole, like you say, you have 3 3/4 or something
Yeah,
like
a
that.
whole number and a fraction mixed together, like 3 3/4. There's a number and a fraction mixed. That's a mixed number. If you're gonna multiply mixed numbers, okay, before you even mess with it, don't make the mistake of doing, like when you were adding, you did the whole numbers and fractions separate. Don't do that with multiplying and dividing. Okay? Don't do it separate. You need to make this into improper and make this into improper. Do you remember how to make it improper? Have you ever done that?
You have to,
So now when you multiply and then add,
Yeah, multiply and add. You multiply,
multiply that by the 3.
4 times 3 is 12, and then add the top. 12 plus 3 is 15.
where did you get that problem?
I made it up in
She
my
made it
head.
up, she won't tell us that. She won't tell us.
Well, I
I
thought
won't do the
We won't
even
do
ones
that.
for sure, I'll tell you that.
it,
I
okay.
remembered. Oh, well.
2 times 1 is 2, plus
Plus
1
1 is 3.
is
We
3.
change it to 3.
And I had to make up a number that wouldn't divide.
Okay, do another one.
I will, but this one's not done. Okay? This one, there's no divide. Okay, 15 times 3 is 45. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, now you need to know how to turn it back to the mixed number. We did that a
Okay,
while
so
ago. I told you we'd be
divide
doing
8
it
into
again.
45.
45 divided by 8.
8 times 5 is 40 with 5
5.
eighths.
Okay, that's 40. 5 left over, the 5 goes on top, and the 8 stays on the bottom. See the 8 here? The 8 goes on the bottom. 5 and 5/8. We'll do a few of these, okay?
Okay.
We'll get you
Okay.
sick of them. Okay, let's do another one, like 2 1/2 times, let's do a whole number. times 4. Okay, they both need to be fractions before you can multiply. Okay,
So-
let's turn that into improper.
Which
2
is
times 2,
5, 2, 4.
4
So
plus 1 is 5.
So five,
5
two.
halves
Five
times
halves 4, 1.
4 over 1. Can we do some division first?
Yep.
The
2
2 and 4 we can divide first.
by 2.
Yep. 5 times 2 on top. 10 over 1 is just 10.
Okay.
Okay? It's going to want you to do some estimating too.
Why, do we have to estimate?
Yes,
Why?
it's actually going to be easier than doing this stuff. Okay, first estimate the answer, and then it says to do the exact. Okay, on number 1, it'll be a lot like number 2. It says 4 1/2 times 1 3/4.
4.
Okay, if it's a half or bigger, go to the next one. 1/2, that's half or bigger, so go to 5.
Go to 5. So go to
Okay.
5 and 1/2 or 5 period?
Just 5.
Just 5.
The nearest whole one. 3/4 is more than a half, so make that 2. The estimate is 10. Okay?
Oh, that
It's
isn't
not that
hard.
hard.
Okay, that's not too
Now, to
bad.
do the exact,
4 1/2 times.
yeah, we gotta turn these into improper. Leave the 2, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4, 4 plus 3 is 7. See, the estimate
Is this
was
where you're
way-
rounding? Is this where that rounding comes in?
Yeah, this was estimating, that was part of it. This is rounding to the nearest one when you estimate, yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
so
so-
this one, you can't do any division, or any division first, right? So
60.
multiply, top times top, bottom times bottom. And it goes almost 8 times, huh? Our estimate was a little high, but
7.
they both went up. So 63 divided by 8 is 7 times 8.
56,
When you subtract that,
7 eighths. 7 and 7 eighths.
7, yeah, 7, 8. 7 goes on top, and the 8 stays on bottom. So you got 7 and 7 eighths. So there's your estimate and your exact.
Did you want us to use that little squiggly line that we're supposed to use? as a
Yeah,
symbol?
squiggle would be better here. This is approximately 10. That would be better than putting an equals for our estimate.
So you use that little sign instead
Yeah, use a squiggle.
instead of equal.
Since we know the sign is better if we use it, huh?
That would be the same like equal?
That's the same as an approximate. It means approximately.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it has somewhere there's 3 numbers. You need to do an estimate and an exact. Let's do 4 1/2 times 2 1/5 times 5.
Okay, wait, let me, okay, 4,
4 1/2 times 2 1/5 times 5. That's actually number 9 in the book.
2.
Okay, this one is half or bigger, go up to 5, right?
Uh-huh.
1/5, is that half or bigger?
Yes.
1/5?
1/5 is, no,
No.
So that
So
goes to
just 2, stays 2.
I don't,
If you ate a fifth of a pizza, you wouldn't have ate half of it. Okay? And then that is already a whole number.
Okay, so if it's already a whole number, you don't have to
Just
mess
leave
with
it.
it?
Yeah,
So it's
5
50.
yeah. 10 times 5, our little squiggle for approximately 50.
Squiggles,
So this
squiggle.
little squiggle, approximately 50. That's our estimate. And it should come close to 50. If you end up getting 125, you know you're way off, right?
right.
So let's do 4 1/2 times 2 1/5, the original problem, times 5.
9, 2 times
Okay.
So you choose.
You do 2 times 4 is 8 plus
So
1,
is 9.
9. So you have 9 halves, right?
Mhm.
5 stays on bottom. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. This one is over 1, right?
Right.
5 over 1.
5 over 1.
We don't want to multiply those if we don't have to, right?
Right.
What can we do?
We could, divide,
Divide by 5, right?
5 divided by 1.
Now, it won't be so bad 9 times 11. We didn't have to do 99 times 5. 9 times 11 is 99.
9. But
2 times 1?
2 times 1
Is
is
2.
2 times 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost 100 divided by 2, which is 50. So we're pretty close there, huh? 99 divided by 2. 2 will go into 9 4 times. 2 will go into 19 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 left over.
Oh, that's
One
real close, huh?
half.
149
Yeah,
and 1 half.
it was
of 1.
really close to our estimate, because we went up on one of them, and we stayed the same on that one. There's a little less than that, and that's a little more.
And we have to do those steps, you want all those.
Wait, how
problems
did you
to
get-
the answer.
By 2. I'm multiplying wrong. Oh, 99, I put 98.
Okay, and
Yes.
now let's do the division. It's the same as dividing when you just have plain fractions. If you have 1 1/4 divided by 3 3/4. Okay, before we do the exact, let's do an estimate. 1/4, is that about as big as, it's not even half, right?
No, it's not.
Let's leave that one 1. This one, that's bigger than a half, so go to 4. So we have approximately 1 divided by 4. So approximately 1/4. 1 over 4 is 1 divided by 4. Now let's do the exact. Let's do this whole thing, the exact thing. 1 1/4 divided by 3 3/4. This thing needs to be turned into improper. 4 stays down here. 4 times 1, 4 plus 1 is 5. Leave the division sign. We're not ready to change it yet. 4 stays there. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. Now we're ready to flip it over. That's why I like to circle what I'm doing. See, we were just
So you
doing
know
that,
steps.
changing it, and now we're going to change where we're multiplying by the reciprocal. You circle what you're doing, you'll know what
So
happens from here, from this line to this line. We're changing this to multiply. We're flipping this over. We're multiplying by the reciprocal. 4 is on top, 15 is on bottom. What do you want to do with that?
Okay.
So to divide.
Divide by 4?
Mhm.
How about
1 time.
5
divide by 5?
Divided by, 3 times.
is
So 1
1/3.
times 1,
1,
1 times 3.
3.
That's not a fourth, but it's still small, right?
Right.
That's close enough. They probably didn't realize.
I got them.
No, I got. So, Leroy's mom died, didn't she? No, she's still.
So
Okay.
is she teaching you guys all a bunch of good stuff?
All the wrong stuff. All the wrong stuff.
All the good stuff.
Math
Yeah.
is cool. Math is neat. Everything you do in life has got math in it, one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Take care. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
Take care.
That she did.
Okay, let's look at this recipe or some of the word problems here. Okay, what if we want to do Like number 25 says you want to do 2.5 times the recipe. 26 says you want to do 1.5 times the recipe. So
I don't like
for every ingredient, you have to do 1.5 times as much, or 2.5, however much you want to make. Okay? That recipe for cupcakes,
Mhm.
it says it makes 12 cupcakes. Okay?
I imagine that is that wrong.
Okay? You could double it real easy by just doing twice as much, right?
Uh-huh.
Just do it twice. But maybe you don't have enough to make like 3 times the recipe and you need to do 2.5 times. So you need to be able to do that, okay? So if it makes 12 cupcakes, say you wanted to make just 18 cupcakes, that's 1.5 of this. If you're gonna make 1.5 of the recipe, which is what it says to do on number 26, I told you I did the even one. Okay, 18 cupcakes are being made, you're using 1.5 of the recipes. So, find the amount for each ingredient. Okay, for flour, applesauce, and vegetable oil is the only ones it's asking you. You don't have to do every single ingredient, just the ones it asked you. So if you were doing the flour, look at how much the recipe asked for.
1 3/4.
1 3/4 is the recipe. Okay, if you're doing 1.5, you're going to multiply it times, if you were doing double, you'd times it by 2, right?
Right.
You're going to multiply it by this to see how much flour you need. And
Times
on
1.5.
these, you need to do an estimate and an exact. Okay? Your estimate, you're going to round that to 2, right?
Right.
Right.
And 1.5,
2.
2 again, right?
Which is
So
gonna
it's
be,
about 4 cups of flour, but it probably won't be that much because you went up on both of these,
okay, so,
okay? So it probably won't be. Let's put our squiggle there. Our
So-
estimate was 4. Now let's do our exact. 1 3/4, put 4 on the bottom. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Okay, on the next part, leave the 2 on the bottom. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Can't do any dividing, so just straight across. 7 times 3, 21. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, now convert it. 21 divided by 8, not quite 3, is it?
2,
2 times 8 is 16. When you borrow, there's 5 left, right? 2 and 5/8. So you have 2 and 5/8 cup of flour. So you sure don't want to just estimate and put 4 cups. You're going to have way too much flour.
So, okay, I get it now. So
You're not gonna flip
Uh-huh.
that?
No, we
No,
didn't
'cause we didn't
divide, we
divide.
multiplied.
You only do
Oh, but you
two.
didn't flip the 3-2. You didn't do.
Because we're
Because
multiplying.
we multiply for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If it had been divided, we would have had to flip it, but
That's a flipping the reciprocal.
yeah, for flipping it, yeah, you flip it, make it a reciprocal only when you're dividing.
Flip the
So on number 26, when you're doing all of the recipe, make sure you're multiplying by 1.5, not dividing.
okay.
Make
Okay.
sure when you're.
Okay, what about number 28? It wants you to bake 1/3 of it.
Oh dear.
I didn't finish this one. You guys still have to do the apple, this was just
Oh,
the
that's just for
flour.
the flour.
You still have to do your applesauce and your
Oh, like
vegetable oil, okay?
Okay.
Okay, on number 28, it says you're gonna do 1/3 of the recipe. You're gonna take each one, like on flour,
Okay, we're gonna take the flour,
if you're
which
doing
is,
1/3 of the recipe, you're
the
doing
1/3 is
that
gonna go
time-
first?
You're gonna do it times 1/3, but it's actually gonna divide it by 3, okay? You're still gonna multiply by this. The flour was 1 3/4 under your recipe,
That comes
right?
first?
It doesn't matter. It's
Doesn't
gonna be
matter.
multiplied because you're gonna do times 1/3.
Okay, times 1/3.
so 1/3 of it.
Okay,
For,
so,
for an estimate, you have about 2 here, right? This is
2.
more than half, so you have 2 times 1/3 is not even a half, huh?
No.
It's like 0. So you're like almost no flour, but you do need to put flour, so the estimate's not a good thing to go by. Okay, to do the exact, 1 3/4 times 1/3, you're gonna leave it 4. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Times that by 1/3.
okay, so that's 8.
7 times 1. 7 times 1 is 7.
And
4 times 3
12.
is 12. Okay, 7/12. 6/12 is half, right? So it's a little over half. 7/12 of a cup. So you could measure, like put half of a cup and just sprinkle a little more on there. You know, if you have something that measures 1/12 of a cup, fine, but usually you're way better off when you make
7/12
big
of a cup?
recipes.
I wouldn't even make
7/12
that.
of a cup. I know.
How would the
You're
world
only
would-
doing 1/3 of a recipe. What is 1/3 of 12 cupcakes? 1/3 of that? Divide it by 3.
Oh,
You're making 4 cupcakes. I wouldn't do it either. I'd do a whole recipe and this, like freeze part of it, or make them all and freeze it after I cooked it.
I handed out to several different people.
Yeah, but this is actually how much flour you would use for four cupcakes.
So 7/12.
Yeah, 7/12.
7/12
Number 30,
cup.
what does it want you to do?
Number 30 says, according to Old English, let me see.
According to an Old English system of time units, a moment is 1.5 minutes. A moment. How many moments are there in an 8-hour workday?
Like how many minutes is there?
Okay, so it says an 8-hour workday, it even gives you how many minutes there are.
Okay.
In an
It'd be
8-hour
90.
workday, there's 480 minutes. Okay, so that's how many minutes,
Okay.
how many minutes total there is. What did it say a moment is?
1.5.
Is 1.5 minutes. Okay. What numbers are you gonna use to do what?
Okay, 480 minutes.
How many moments are there in that many minutes?
So you're gonna have 480 divided by 1.5?
Yeah. If there was like 2 minutes in a moment, you would say 480 divided by 2 minutes, right? You'd have 240 moments. But this is a moment. You're going to take the total and you're going to divide it by how much a moment is. 480. And then you're going to have to leave this divided so you get it switched over to a improper. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Then you're going to change this part of it. Leave the 480 over 1. Change this to multiply and flip this one over. So 2 is on top. Okay? And you can go ahead and multiply it, or see if you can divide by 3. You could do 960 divided by 3 if you want. That might be easier than putting 3 into that. 960 divided by 3.
So long.
3 into 6 is 2, right? We did that one for you, huh? 320 moments in an 8-hour day. So if you say, wait a moment, I'll be there, just give me a moment. You're only getting 1.5 minutes when you get a moment.
So 3 goes into
960. You could have divided this, and you would have got 160 and 1. 160 times 2 would have been 320 also.
So
Just doesn't matter how you Would you prefer, because
Whichever.
still the same.
You'll still get the same answer.
So it's 320 moments.
Yep.
Okay, does it tell you, and I'm not looking at the answers right at the moment, does it tell you on each question whether you're going to do the reciprocal or not?
You have to figure out whether you're multiplying or dividing.
Oh, okay, that's right.
If you're doing 1.5 of a recipe, you're
Because you won't get the answer and then not one or the other, right?
yeah. This
Okay,
could be
that's-
multiply or divide. All of these could be multiply or divide, because that section is for multiplying and dividing. So you need to try to do, this one actually, we just did the exact, we're supposed to do an estimate also. So this you would have did 2 minutes to estimate it. Right?
Do we have to estimate it?
Yeah, it said estimate and exact.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. It won't take that much longer. You got all weekend.
You see that?
I know.
Oh, my God.
Okay, don't forget your study skills and all that stuff. You can do them now or you can wait till next week, but you only have from Monday till Wednesday.
So it ended
After
up
we do the
two,
review, you gotta get your
So
portfolio
we're
ready.
moving to the next portfolio, right?
Right. This was the last section of this chapter. So your study skills and all of your key terms and stuff that you need to get into your portfolio,
Oh, you
you
know
need to get those in there.
what, on that last question, the estimate is 240?
Yes.
Would you, next
The
week?
estimate on the last question, if you actually had this number and you were estimating it, you'd leave the 480 and
Did
you
you
would
scoot your
divide
paper
it.
over, Corinne?
Ma'am,
Did you scoot your paper over for this direction? Thank you.
the 480, instead of dividing it by 1/2 for the estimate, you would divide by 2, because this is more than the half, right? A half or more.
How come it ends up more for the exact when you upped it to 2?
Well, if you divide by a bigger number, it's going to be smaller. If you have 24 and you divide it by a bigger number, like if you have 24 divided by 2, you're going to get 12. What if you divide it by 3? 24 divided by 3. So anytime you divide by a bigger number, it gets smaller and smaller.
Okay, so 240 is the estimate
240 is your estimate.
and 320 is your exact.
That's an estimate right there. Yeah. 320 is bigger because you didn't divide by as much. You didn't actually divide by as much. What if we had divided this by 3? It would have been smaller, right? The more and more you divide by, the smaller this part gets.
Okay.
But the more people you have to divide something up into, the less you get, right? The smaller it gets.
Oh, okay.
We just keep on going.
Multiplying by bigger numbers makes it bigger, but
Oh,
dividing by
okay,
bigger
that's what
numbers
I'm, okay,
makes it
that's what I
smaller.
was, oh.
Okay, don't forget to get your key terms. If you don't do it this weekend, you're gonna have from Monday to Wednesday to get them in there. So get your key terms and new formulas. If you wanna do your extra credit, don't forget there's a practice test back here. There's all those study skills. You have your portfolio sheets that tells you what you need to do.
Yes, I do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
This one I keep left for you to come. Because I
There's no number
yet.
Okay, so anybody have any questions on? Nobody have any questions?
Okay, we need lights.